Is data privacy really an issue? Should they be worried about it? Why does data privacy matter?
Oh yeah. Well, that's just a whole lot of questions at once, isn't it? So, okay, first and foremost, I think it's really important when you're talking about a merger and acquisition where, one entity is the site and one entity is not a site, right? And is not necessarily an organization that day to day is concerned about data privacy or day to day lives, for example, HIPAA compliance in clinical care and clinical research. Doesn't mean you're not a really smart PE firm and that you're not making a great decision, but it's just a different experience. Now, where I come in and say is like, look, should that be a reason you don't buy a clinical trial site? Well, of course not. There's mergers and acquisitions in all sorts of data privacy environments each and every day, 365, right? What you need to understand is first and foremost is the site handling it well, because the onus at this moment in time before you even go about acquiring and merging is on the site. Like that's part of that due diligence. And then presuming that's not a factor and it's more how am I going to manage the privacy concerns during the merger and during the acquisition, then you're going to want to sit down and have a really clear plan, one around firewalling. Don't expose yourself to anything you don't have to. If there is a way for your, for example, PE firm acquisition to basically steer clear of ever even coming near said data, and frankly, you probably have very little reason, other than maybe a TPO, to be anywhere near it from the beginning, then stay as far away from it as you can. People always want to come in going more compliance, but you and I both are on the same page about no, not when it comes to HIPAA. If it doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you. So I think getting really clear from the jump on, is it going to apply to you? How are you going to firewall? When you do have to have sensitive data that is just going to have to change hands or change ownership because of the merger acquisition, then what is the path forward there? And honestly, making sure that you're including the right people in those conversations. So that's where I start with it. But you and I always start different places. So where do you start with it?
Always. And that's why we're a good team, Edie. I think
I
so.
agree.
I start off with going, does HIPAA even apply?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you do it right, HIPAA shouldn't even apply.
Right.
Most sites don't do it right.
Right.
But I love the way you started, where you said, you know what? Avoid looking at the data. Why do you really need the data?
Right.
To me, that would be your first part. Like, why
Well,
are you going in there?
and for me, it's like if it's truly clinical trial data that is appropriately documented in, subject IDs, et cetera, then it's not actually regulated by HIPAA. Now, some of the information in that patient file may be HIPAA regulated because it came from the clinical side to come over, but understanding and knowing, basically where are your landmines and how do we navigate the field and find a path that just doesn't have landmines in it, right? And keep the individuals who are presuming your site that you're going to acquire merge with is doing it well, keep those folks doing it well. Like if it's not broken, you might not want to fix it.
I think the other elements that we, again, look at and consider that a lot of people are not thinking about is everyone's thinking at the federal level. Everyone's thinking HIPAA, and that's fine.
Mhm.
That's well. States have their own privacy laws, whether you're
Right.
talking about California with
Yep.
CCPA or CPRA. You're talking about state wiretapping laws. For example, if you are sending email messages to potential subjects to come in, California, for example, has CISA, which comes out and says that's a wiretapping law. You're tracking if I'm opening up the email, and that's a wiretapping law fraud issue. Well, that tracking becomes an issue. Can spam, TCPA, where they're texting, emailing people, that could be a privacy issue. Then you've got disease-specific privacy law issues, things like AIDS, HIV, weight loss. They all have their own
Right.
laws that come in that are state-specific level.
And
CME.
that's something that a lot of your, PE style firms coming in to acquire a site just may not understand about
Yeah.
truly working with a certain indication or treatment area or patient population, and what states are you working in, right? So it's a stratified risk profile approach. And not to toot our own horn, but that's usually why you need someone who understands the risk profile of something like a clinical trial site in this particular environment to help guide that
I
process.
think that's the best part, right? I mean, right now the hottest thing is, well, last time, a year or 2 years ago, the hottest things were vaccines. Right now, weight loss is super hot. And there are
Mhm.
states that are specifically looking at weight loss issues and looking at the privacy laws, looking at the connection, looking at telemedicine laws that go into it. So you tie telemedicine to your privacy laws. You've got a whole mixture of things to consider. And then you take onto that, you add on all of these M&A companies are coming in and saying, we're going to add structure. How are you going to do that? I'm going to do that by using AI. Okay, you're going to use AI. Do you realize AI is currently being sued for privacy issues because there are privacy implications to the use of AI? And there are lawsuits on this topic right now. And that's what we get into. We're talking about not just where you are, but where you will be going. And I think that's where the beauty lies. So you should absolutely, if these are questions you're trying to explore, talk to us, reach out to us, and we'll be happy to talk to you a little bit further. Call, click, or email.